Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're looking at what happens when people who have been enemies for generations suddenly have to live together as equals. How do you even begin? We're going to dive into the blueprint they create to keep from falling apart, a constitution. It's basically a document designed to build one shared future out of a really divided past.
And we have to start with these powerful words from Nelson Mandela. He said this while on trial for treason, staring down a government that had built its entire identity on racial division. So what was this system he was literally willing to die to take down?
Well, this sign, it's a shocking, unfiltered look right into the heart of that system, apartheid in South Africa. This wasn't just some abstract policy. It was a threat, a declaration that most of the country's population wasn't even considered fully human.
Okay, so let's take a closer look at what the system of division really meant for people on a day-to-day basis.
The word apartheid itself actually means apartness, and that's exactly what it was. It was this system engineered by the white minority government to segregate and control everyone else, based purely on their skin color. And what's so wild when you look at this list is just how total the separation was. I mean, this wasn't just about politics. It got into every single corner of your life, where you could live, who you could learn with, where you could swim, even where you could go to church. It was, from start to finish, a system of total oppression.
But you know, a system built on that much injustice, it can't last forever. The fight for freedom eventually led to the creation of what they called a new rainbow nation.
And this timeline really shows you the road to freedom was anything but short. We're talking about decades of struggle, of protest, of sacrifice. I mean, 27 years in prison for Mandela alone, all leading to that one incredible moment, the country's first truly democratic election.
Now here's the part that is just incredible. After winning the election, the new black leaders, with Mandela at the helm, made a choice. Instead of revenge, which many people expected after decades of brutality, they chose forgiveness. They chose reconciliation. They actually invited their old oppressors to help build the new country together.
But, you know, saying you forgive someone is one thing. Building an entire country on that idea, that's something else entirely. It created this huge challenge and brings us to the big question. How do you even write the rules of the game when nobody trusts each other?
I mean, just think about it for a second. The very people who oppressed you are now sitting across the table, and you're supposed to design a country together. Trust? It wasn't just low. It was basically non-existent. Both sides were terrified of what was going to happen next.
So you had the black majority who'd fought for so long, and they were afraid that this new democracy wouldn't be real, that their rights wouldn't be protected. And then on the other side, the white minority who had always been in charge, they were terrified of losing their property and, frankly, of revenge for what they'd done. These were the real fears driving the whole conversation.
So how did they break the deadlock? Well, after 2 years of really tough, really intense negotiations, they found their answer in a single document, a set of supreme, written rules that both sides could agree on, a constitution, something that would be more powerful than any one government or party. See, a constitution is basically the ultimate rulebook. It's supposed to build trust. It spells out who gets to have power. Then it puts limits on that same power so nobody can abuse it. And finally, it paints a picture of the kind of country everyone wants to live in. It's not a magic wand, but it's the foundation you build everything else on.
And this need for a shared rulebook, for a national promise, it's not just a South African story. Let's jump over to another nation that had to figure out its identity in the middle of absolute chaos.
So, just as India was finally breaking free from centuries of British colonial rule, it was immediately thrown into this massive national trauma, the partition. The subcontinent was literally split in two along religious lines, creating India and Pakistan. And this one number, it's just staggering. An estimated 1 million people killed. That gives you a sense of the violence, the fear, and the deep anxiety that was in the air when the founders of India sat down to try and write their new constitution.
So, faced with that kind of tragedy, what kind of future could India's founders even dare to hope for? Well, the answer is right there, in the promise they wrote into their constitution.
Years before independence, Mahatma Gandhi had already spelled out this powerful dream. He envisioned a radically equal India, a place where every single person, especially the most vulnerable, would feel like the country truly belonged to them.
But then you have Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the main architect of the Constitution, and he offered a really important reality check. He warned that just giving people political equality, one person, one vote, that it wouldn't mean much if you didn't also tackle the massive social and economic inequality that was baked into society. For him, the Constitution wasn't the end of the struggle. It was just the beginning of a new phase.
And these two ideas, Gandhi's big dream and Ambedkar's sharp warning, they were both poured into the Constitution's opening statement, its very soul, the preamble.
Just look at these words. Every single one is a promise. Sovereign, secular, democratic, justice, liberty, equality. These weren't just describing what India was at that moment. No, this was a declaration of the values it would always be striving for. It was like a checklist for the future.
So here's the big takeaway. A constitution is never just some dry, boring legal text. As India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, put it so well, it's a pledge. It's a vow to serve the people and to start the long, hard work of ending suffering.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Whether we're talking about South Africa, India, or any democracy for that matter, the amazing ideals written down on paper, well, they don't just happen on their own. A constitution doesn't magically solve a country's problems. What it does is give people a framework to argue, to debate, and to struggle together to try and make those founding promises real.